So you know there is no plugins or nothing fancy going on. This is straight out of the 1200. All right, so right here we have the SP1200, and right in front of me I have a stack full of records, and just sample into the SP1200. I just recently uploaded a video and I was speaking about Akai's programs, whole different video, but a lot of people were pointing out the sound of the SP1200. I have a short little clip where I just show some drums. Now I take that into the SP1200. There was no processing. I did not put no plugins. I didn't do no this does not have no plugins or EQs or anything like that. That is just the sound of the SP1200. Now, this is one thing I want to point out before I go any further. The SP1200 is not comparing or competing with any other sampler, or not. I don't think it's trying to compete with anything new that's on the market. This is a reissue of the original SP1200 that was made years ago. They didn't change nothing other than the color or the face of the SP1200. Everything else is the same. Oh, and another thing is they give us an extra 10 seconds to sample. So it's a total of 20 seconds sample time. So keep in mind, it's not trying to compete with anything that's out on the market. This thing just holds its own lane. Now, I'll tell you what, grab yourself a cup of coffee or drink, whatever it is that you sip on, and let's listen to some sounds recorded into the SP1200 and compare what we get straight out of the vinyl record and then what we get coming out of the 1200. Now, before we go any further, if you are in need of any audio equipment, whether it's cables, SD cards, or any sampler, check out my links down in the description to Zounds. Zounds is the place to shop if you need any audio equipment. They do not check your background, no credit check. They'll ship out your piece of audio equipment today, and you set up payment plans with them. All right, so we actually have this record right here, and let's go ahead and listen to some of these tracks. Oh. All right. So right now we are listening in stereo, and a lot of these records that were recorded back in the 70s, they will have the trumpets or the horns on the left speaker and the percussion or drums on the right speaker. So the SP1200 is a mono sampler. So now I'm actually hooking up just the right side of the cable into the input, and this is what we have right here with those drum breaks. Let's listen to what's coming out of the vinyl record, and then we'll play back what I have in the 1200. All right, that's a huge difference. Now, keep in mind, I am driving the input. So when I'm recording into the SP1200, I have my record gain knob. I love the fact that it's a huge knob. The something about that is awesome to have. If you drop the needle, you'll see that I'm crushing the gain. So it is distorting, but something about that distortion from the 1200, I don't know what's inside of this machine. I'm not an engineer when it comes down to circuitry, but it sounds and it feels so good. There's no plugins here. I don't have an EQ. I don't have saturation plugins. This is the original sound that's coming out when you drive that input. I'm not pitching this down because the SP1200 has a sound when you pitch it down. It kind of gives you a ring sound to it. That's great if you're looking for that style, that flavor. But right now, we're not pitching it down. We're not hearing the ring. We're just listening to the raw sound going into the 1200 and then coming out to the speakers. Let's actually flip this over and listen to some more breaks. All right, there's some nice toms right there, and once I bring that into the 1200, it warms up any signal that you hit it with. Yeah, that's a big difference. Let's keep listening. Now, I am pitching this down. If you go right here and you tune this down, you can pitch it up or down. Yeah. I'm telling you, there's times where I sit down right here and just run signal through the 1200 just to listen to it. It's very satisfying. Now, quick heads up, if you're part of my Patreon, I will be releasing all these drum breaks to my community. So if you want some of these resources, make sure you download this on my Patreon. Anybody that's a member will be getting all these sounds coming out of the 1200. If you are not a member yet, go down to the link of this video and become a member. All right, let's actually keep digging. Let's go through this. We have this other record right here by Smoke. I'm not sure if this is the name of the actual record, but let's go ahead and play this back and see what we have right here. Oh, that's it right there. All right, so we have that. Oh my goodness, big difference, big difference. Let's go ahead and pitch this down. Woo. Listen to that snare. That snare just punches right through the speaker. Now, I could isolate just the snare, and let's say we just want to use a snare and we want to use a kick from another sample or another record and start piecing all these together and building your own drum kit. Woo. Oh man, that's it. That's it. It's only 2.5 seconds per pad. So it's giving you just small chunks of audio sample, but you get these in these pads and you just spread them out and you start creating your own grooves off of it. Now, I've tried a lot of different samplers and nothing has come close to what I hear coming out of the 1200. I guarantee you're not going to hear, or you cannot compare or emulate the sound of the 1200 coming out from anything else. I know the MPC Live has the 1200 emulation, but I'm sorry to say it is not close to what we're getting out of the 1200. Now, I was going to compare the MPC Live with the SP1200 and run the same samples, but I'll be honest with you, what you're hearing right now out of the vinyl is exactly what you're going to hear when you sample into the Live Mark II. I myself personally, I like the sound of the Live Mark II because it's very transparent. If I A and B, anything that I sample into the MPC Live Mark II or MPC One or the MPC keys, is very transparent. It's so hard to define the difference. So what I'm hearing right now from the vinyl and what you're hearing as well is most likely going to be the same thing when we sample into the Live Mark II. So listening to what we're hearing over here is what we would get from the Live Mark II compared to what we're listening to on the 1200. All right, let's go ahead and grab this next one, Tower of Power, back to Oakland. Now, right here, you are hearing, I'm actually coming out of one of the filter outputs. So you're listening to the actual filter with this break right here. So I myself, prior to listening to the filters right here on the 1200, I never really paid attention too much on filters. Like, okay, there's a high pass, low pass, until I heard the sound of these filters right here. Now, when I go back to any other sampler and I listen to the filters, it does not compare to what I'm getting from this machine. It's a night and day difference. The filter here is just so soft and so smooth. Nothing sounds like it's a little overdone with the filter. Anything that's a little too harsh, it'll warm it up, which is a lot more pleasing to listen to. Now, I'll actually go to Bank B and let's actually sample something and so you can see how I'm driving the input. Got the input right here. I'm gonna drive it. Let's bring it back and sample into Bank B, pad 1, hit enter, come out of outputs 4. Let's start sampling right on the downbeat. So you know there is no plugins or nothing fancy going on. This is straight out of the 1200. Yeah, so now you hear, we bring in, especially when it's percussive instruments, I'm driving the preamp and yes, is overloading, in other words, distorting the signal, but the distortion coming from a machine like this is completely different from when I'm distorting into any of my MPCs. I love my MPC. Like I said, I really like the sound of my MPC, but by any means, I'm not distorting my input signal on my MPC. I've done it before. It does not sound good. I try to keep my levels between -9 to -3 dB. Anything in between those meters on the MPC live sounds great. I love that sound. Once you push that preamp, the distortion will clip very harsh and does not sound pleasant to play back. All right, so I really just wanted to make this video because I got so many comments on that previous video, which was not even about the 1200. It was about the MPC programs. And so many people are pointing out the sound of the 1200. So you know what? I haven't made a video on this. Where this machine shines is the sound that you get. Again, this is not competing with the MPC Live or any other sampler that you'll see out on the market that's new. These other MPCs are powerful. When it comes down to the workflow, this does not keep up with an MPC Live. I'm telling you that right now when it comes down to workflow. But when it comes down to sound and the swing that you get on the 1200, this thing right here is at a whole different category. Yes, it is a mono sampler, but as you heard right now, it has so much character to the sound that you put in it. So it is unique. It's not for everybody. It does have a certain sound, whether you love it or whether you don't like it. I don't think you will hear the 1200 and say, it's okay. You either love the sound of the 1200. And also, another thing that I noticed, I was not really pitching the sounds. When it comes down to tuning the sound or your signal down low and you hear that SP1200 ring, that's beautiful as well. We were not even showing that as much right here. We're just sampling into the 1200 and playing back signal. Maybe I'll do another video later on and do the same thing, but we'll sample melodic signal into the 1200 and tune it down so we could listen to that SP1200 ring. But I will be doing some more videos on the 1200 since it's an awesome machine to use. Now, do not forget, if you are a Patreon member, go to Patreon and download these files. I want to release them for you. I'll be loading these files up into my MPC and creating some chops on my MPC to store that and using some melodic chops on top of these breaks. Now, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a blessed day. I'll catch y'all on our next video. Peace.